in the 80s, you could literally finish almost any movie. If you actually finished it, produced it, and delivered it, it was sold.
Right.
Period. That was the barrier of entry. Now, the barrier of entry to make a movie was extremely high. It would, low end, we're talking $300,000 to $500,000, and that's super low end. We're talking Roger Corman style films at that point. But you could make money. As the years have gone on, and the access to the gear and the distribution, everything has gone up. More and more people have flooded in the industry. So now, and I'd love to hear what you think. Do you think that you have to be so much more than a filmmaker and so much better at your skill set to even survive as a filmmaker? Meaning you need to understand marketing, you need to understand distribution, you need to understand deliverables, you need to understand all these other tools that you used to be able to just hire somebody to do a lot of times. But you need to have a lot of these tools in your toolbox just to make a living, just to sustain you, not get rich, not blow up, not like just to make a living. Because before you literally, it was like shooting fish in a barrel back in the 80s and the 90s. Just making a movie got you. And now everyone makes a movie. Like, so.
No,
so what do you think?
That's why your book is a very, very valuable, because it talks about the need for filmmakers to really be entrepreneurs and to really understand everything they can do to promote and expand their business with their movie. Your movie now, I think, can be like the core element of a brand, or a business that you build around your film, but you have got to have the business skills now. It's really, really important. And I'll go back a little bit to that conversation we were having about curation, because now, and even I'll go back a little bit further to the Amazon situation. Another thing that has happened with Amazon is that Amazon owns IMDb TV. And IMDb TV is their AVOD channel, and it's their move to AVOD. And that move is very important for them, because in the past, they had to pay for all of their content out of their subscription pool. So in other words, everybody would be subscribing to Amazon Prime, but that money is not used just for movies. That was like a freebie that you got because you were getting free shipping. Well, because the COVID, everybody's home. Nobody's going out shopping. Everybody's shopping online. They need that money to cover all those shipping costs, distribution centers. So they don't want to use that pool of Prime subscription money to pay for content. So what do? Okay, they just say, okay, we're going to encourage everybody to move over to IMDb TV. Then the advertisers are going to pay for the content, and we don't have to take that out of our pocket. So we're, and we'll talk a little bit more about this whole move to AVOD and what that's all about, because but that's why Amazon is doing it, because Amazon is different than other subscription channels. That's the only business they're in is movies.
Generally speaking, generally speaking, Netflix. I've been saying this for a long time. Netflix is extremely vulnerable because they have basically one stream of income. I mean, sure, they sell an occasional Stranger Things T-shirt or a Cobra Kai T-shirt at this point, but that is not Disney. Disney is a very diversified company. Like right now, Disney's entire theme park and resort, which is about 25% of their yearly revenue, we're talking about billions of dollars, is shut down. But their other avenues their other revenue streams are doing really, really well, especially Disney Plus. And we'll talk about PVOD later on too, because I'm dying to talk to you about PVOD as well.
So to continue that, so that's what's happening with Amazon, and part of why they, made the pay rate so low, because that's another, encouragement for people to switch to IMDb TV. Now, the problem is that an individual filmmaker cannot get on IMDb TV. So that means that all of a sudden we become a gatekeeper for Amazon in that sense. So there's no DIY aspect to IMDb TV. So, and they are quite heavy on curation. So if we submit maybe 50 films to them, they might take 30. So we actually have to pitch an avail.
Right, and I want
pick what they want.
And I want everybody to understand, though, that you have had a relationship with Amazon going back. You were one of their first films ever streamed on Amazon was one of your films. So you guys have a very unique relationship with Amazon. And if they're treating you like that, how do you think they're going to treat an independent filmmaker uploading to Amazon Video Direct?
Yeah. You won't have access to, an individual will not have access to IMDb
Correct.
TV. I don't think ever.
Right. No,
So,
that's not smart business on their part. There's just enough there's so much content that the studios can dump into AVOD. And I've been seeing it constantly that they're just like, why not? We'll just toss it in there and see what happens. And there's just so much.
the good news is that the pay rate on that is significantly higher. It's almost equal to what the pay rate used to be a couple of years ago on Amazon. So because we're getting a share of the advertising revenue, and so it's comparable to like Tubi, if not a little better. So in the end, if your film is good enough for us to get you on there, you're going to make more money there than you would have made on Prime.
So basically, and I know this is, I mean, I didn't want this to be a depressing episode, but there is some depression. There is definitely some depressing concepts that we're talking about here and issues, which basically are now is a lot of filmmakers are under the impression that they could just make a movie, any kind of movie, with no star power, with no niche audience, with no anything, and go out there, make it, and there were ways of generating revenue, like an Amazon, where you literally had the power in your hand to upload it yourself, drive traffic there, do some TVOD sales, maybe get part of Amazon Prime. And that's like low-hanging fruit. Then if you want to go to the next level, you pay money to an aggregator to put it up on iTunes and Google Play and all these other platforms. And before, you could make money, make good money. I've had many filmmakers on my show that have made millions doing that. But it seems like now those days are essentially gone. And a lot of filmmakers are still making content or have made content thinking that that's the way the game is played. Because, and I've said this before as well, our industry pretty much stayed the same. The technology aspect of it and the distribution side of things stayed the same up until pretty much the late 70s, early 80s when VHS was brought into the game. And then even when that happened, we're still talking about maybe a decade to a decade and a half, like let's say like 8 to 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, that VHS was king. Then DVD was just another version of that. And that was king up until the early to mid 2000s. And then streaming, but it seems to now everything keeps speeding up. And the change is happening so much faster, where before it took forever to change. I mean, I still remember at the beginning of when I launched the New Film Household, there was still that conversation. Does film look better than digital? Like, oh yeah, you remember that was the biggest thing, and I had podcasts about it. I talked about it, like, oh, is film the texture? And this. People were still having that dumb conversation, which the answer is it's up to you. So the business is changing so rapidly. A lot of these filmmakers are not, if they're not listening to podcasts like mine or reading books that are current, they're being left behind and they're getting slaughtered because you know it. You see films all the time. They come in with a $500,000 budget film with no stars attached, with barely a good story, and they're just like, that film will never make money. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to say, sorry, you're the bad guy. Like, sorry, this is not going to work.
The other thing is beautiful, important films.
Yeah.
There is no market for them right now.
Right.
There's not a market for depressing dramas right now.
Not so much.
Right now, people want to be entertained.
They want to escape. They want to escape.
Yeah. They're feeling bad enough as it's on their own.
And I've said this. And I've said this on the podcast 1,000 times. Please, whoever's making a COVID movie, stop it. Stop it.
Well, we've had two not rejected by Amazon.
Right. No, nobody wants a COVID movie. I don't want to watch a COVID movie. Do you want to watch a COVID movie? I see that on the news every day. It's the equivalent of watching a 9/11 film while 9/11 is going on, or watching a Vietnam film while the Vietnam War is going on. Like nobody wants to see this.
There has to be some time afterwards. Yeah.
And even then, how many people? There was this era of Vietnam films. There was 3, 4 9/11 films. I'm not sure if there's going to be a moment where we want to go back to COVID. I don't see it anytime soon, at least.
The only thing that might be interesting is when you have kids that didn't experience it, and you want to say, here's what it was like.
Because we're going to be like the grandpas and the grandmas in the nursing homes going, were you alive in 2020? And I'm like, what was that like? I mean, when the aliens landed in November, what was that?
It's so funny that you said that, because we were having, all of us, a conversation the other day. We're going, what else could possibly happen?
Aliens?
Somebody said aliens are going to land.
So aliens are going to land. No, aliens are going to land. Atlantis is going to rise. The mole people will finally rise from underground and take over the planet. Blood rain hasn't happened yet. I haven't seen locusts or frogs rain on us yet. I mean, there's a handful, but there's not much left. There's not much. Oh, and the meteor. Don't forget the comet. The meteor or the comet that will eventually hit us. I mean, Jesus. It's an insane world that we live in. Now, with COVID...